Latchkey, written by user Erusius. I believe, now that I have made it to adulthood, that I was given a key too soon. I was in 3rd grade when my dad got a job at Mazza Fibre Optics. He would be working from 2 till 11, making more money than he had ever made before. But there was a catch. Dad had always worked from 6 to 2, which meant he would get home before 3 so he could get me off the bus. Mum had a typical 9 to 5, something she couldn't change, and that left 2 hours where I would be unattended. 2 hours didn't seem that long though, and the money was so much better than what he had made at the phone company, so they decided to give me some trust. I wasn't a kid who lacked responsibility, and I didn't usually have trouble following rules, so they decided I was old enough to be trusted to let myself in and lock the door behind me. Just let yourself in, make a snack, do your homework, and don't answer the door or the phone if someone comes around or calls. Can you do that? I nodded, thinking it sounded exciting, and so I became a latchkey kid. It went pretty well for a while. I would come home, make some Nesquik and bagel bites, do my homework, and then go watch cartoons until Mum came home and started dinner. It was a good system, until I came home to find something was different. I came home from school, worrying about the math homework in my bag, when I found that the door was unlocked. I put my key in, meaning to turn it so I could get inside, but the door just pushed open as it creaked into the quiet house. I felt a little chill run up me. The door was never unlocked. My parents were meticulous about locking it, always had been, and as I looked into the seemingly empty house, I felt sure that I didn't want to go in there. Go inside, make a snack, do your homework, and watch some TV until I get home. That was my mother's voice echoing in my head, and it moved me past the wall of fear that was building in me. I went inside, closed and locked the door, and went to the kitchen for my snack. I had lived in this house my whole life, and in that whole time, I had never felt unsafe there. It was my home. You're supposed to feel safe in your home, but as I walked through the living room and toward the kitchen, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It was that feeling I felt sometimes when I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, the feeling of monsters watching you. But it was the first time I had felt it in the daytime. Something was watching me, something unfriendly. And as I moved into the kitchen, I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. It was gone when I looked, but I was pretty sure it had been there. I shrugged it off at the time though, and went to get my chocolate milk and chips. I was scared, but I was also 8. When you're 8, it isn't uncommon to jump at shadows or think there might be ghosts or something. You know it can't be real, but that doesn't stop it from making you scared. I took the powder out of the cabinet, took the milk out of the fridge, and spooned powder into my glass as I prepared to mix it. I had the milk up, ready to pour, when I saw something reflected in the side of the glass. It wasn't exactly the reflection of a person, but as the milk slowly splashed into the cup, I saw something lumpy and ill-defined peeking at me from the door to the kitchen. I couldn't tell what it was, and when the milk spilled over the rim and onto the countertop, I almost dropped the jug. I managed to get the paper towels before the milk spilled onto the floor, but when I peeked at the door, no one was there. I put my chips in a bowl and got my homework out of my backpack as I went to sit at the dinner table. Unlike usual, I sat with my back to the door out to the backyard. If there was something here, something I was becoming pretty sure there was, I wanted to be able to run if the time came. As I bent over my work, I kept seeing something peek around the edge of the kitchen door. It was always gone when I looked up, but not quite. It was like catching a kid peeking around a corner who pulled his head back a little too slowly, and I almost imagined I could hear whoever it was giggle as I almost saw him. My teeth were chattering, and I'll never know how I stopped myself from crying, but I somehow kept my cool as I worked through my math homework. It was the most scared I had ever been in my entire life, even more than the time I had snuck into the living room to watch scary movies, and I was having trouble finishing my math. Who could focus on fractions when something was in your house, watching you? I was just scribbling now, barely paying attention to what I was writing. I was more interested in trying to see this thing that was stalking me. I couldn't catch more than glimpses, but it was bald and looked fat. It had no neck, its head and shoulders simply mounts of fat, but it was the eyes and mouth that scared me the most. Its eyes were little more than dark, piggy circles. There was no white to them. They looked like doll's eyes as they stared at me, and the mouth was drawn up in a grin. The lips were wet, the teeth so shiny that the thing must be running its tongue over them constantly. The eyes, despite having no real colour other than black, looked hungry, and the mouth was like that of the wolf in one of my cartoons. He was another big bad wolf, just looking for a pig to gobble up, and I was the one he had found at home. I might not know what these fractions meant, but I had figured out one thing. I had figured out that I had to get out of there. Whatever it wasn't a monster or a budgie man. That thing was human, and the longer I sat here, the more I could smell it. It was giving off a smell like my Uncle Tom did at Christmas sometimes. It smelled sweet and sour and a lot like old sweat, something I would later learn was skin-expelling liquor. As a kid, I just knew it smelled bad and I wanted to get away before it decided to gobble me up. I thought and thought, trying to find some reason why I would need to go outside, and then I saw the trash. It was full, the empty biscuit cans sitting on top like an old snakeskin, and that's when I got the idea. The garbage was one of my chores, as long as there wasn't any glass in it, so after cleaning up my homework I went to the can and started taking the bag out so I could take it outside. I headed for the back door, knowing it was watching me, and when I opened the back door I heard it. Heavy footsteps running after me. I slammed the back door and dropped the bag, running for the fence that separated the front and backyard. I heard it hit the door, heard it trip over the bag, and heard it fall on the back porch. But I was already around the house and heading for the neighbour's house. If it had been any other day, I would have kept running, looking for someone who was home. But I saw the Staub's car in the driveway and knew they were home. I heard the gate open and close, but I was already hammering on my neighbour's door. I heard someone drop something in the kitchen, heard Mrs. Staub's come hurrying from the kitchen, and out of the corner of my eye I could see the thing coming around my house and towards the neighbour's house. I pounded even harder, wrenching at the knob, and when Mrs. Staub opened the door, I shot inside and yelled for her to close the door because something was after me. She looked up, and she must have seen something because she slammed and locked the door. Then she called the police, and after that, she called my mum. The police beat Mum home, but only just. I told Mum what I had seen, told her something had been stalking me in the house and how the door had been unlocked when I got home. She reassured me that it was fine, that it was probably nothing. She said it was probably just my mind playing tricks on me, but Mrs. Staub told her that nothing had been playing tricks on her mind, and she had seen it too. It was a fat, naked man who tried to come right up my porch steps, and I'll testify to that before the throne of God. Mum was very confused, and what the police discovered didn't help matters much. They found a large man, one with very little neck, hiding in my closet as if he just expected me to come back after he had chased me out of the house. They didn't find any ID on him for obvious reasons, but they found his clothes folded neatly in the backyard underneath my mother's rose bushes. Mum told me later that he had a record of doing stuff with kids, but that this was the first time he had escalated into anything like this. I'm thankful that they got him before he could actually hurt a child, but he was responsible for the scariest day of my life. After that, my mum asked my aunt to come meet me at the house when I got off the bus and to sit with me until she got home. That kept on until I was in middle school, and Mum decided I could probably look after myself again. I still think about that day a lot, and it's probably why I kept my kids in after-school care for as long as I did.